A woman stands beside her desk in a crowded office, buried under a tower of folders that rises almost to the ceiling. Each folder a sharp-edged polygon catching the light. A coworker leans in, hand extended, offering to take half the stack. She shakes her head without looking up, fingers gripping the edges tighter, and says she's fine. She is not fine. But the word comes out automatically, like a reflex she never agreed to. That moment, small and almost invisible, hides something far deeper than stubbornness or pride. It hides a nervous system that learned long ago that accepting help is the most dangerous thing a person can do. Clinicians increasingly recognize a pattern they call hyper-independence. It is not a personality trait. It is not a sign of strength. It is a trauma response, a survival strategy the body built when no one safe was coming. The American Psychological Association noted in 2021 that hyper-independence often develops when early experiences teach a person that relying on others leads to disappointment, betrayal, or harm. The nervous system records this. It files it under threat. Picture a child's bedroom rendered in soft, geometric shapes. A low-poly bed, a triangular lamp casting a pale glow. A small figure sits on the edge of the mattress, arms wrapped around their own knees. No one else is in the room. The door is shut. The child is 5 years old and has already decided they will never ask for anything again. This is where it starts for many people. Not with a dramatic catastrophe, but with a quiet absence, a need expressed and ignored, a hand reaching out into empty air. John Bowlby proposed in 1969 that humans are born wired for attachment. We arrive in the world expecting a response. A cry should bring comfort. A reach should meet a hand. When it does, the system calibrates. The child learns that needing others is safe. Mary Ainsworth expanded this in 1978 through her strange situation experiments. She observed that some children, upon reunion with a caregiver who had been inconsistently available, did something unexpected. They turned away. They played alone. They appeared completely unbothered. But physiological measurements told a different story. Their heart rates were elevated. Their cortisol was spiking. Inside, they were flooded with distress. Outside, they had learned to perform independence like a role in a play they never auditioned for. A laboratory scene unfolds, polygonal monitors displaying jagged heart rate lines that climb steeply. A small figure sits on a geometric mat, stacking colored blocks with mechanical precision, face blank as a mask. The room is clinical and cool, all sharp angles and muted blues. This is avoidant attachment, and its signature move is deactivation. The attachment system, the deep biological drive to seek closeness, gets suppressed. Not eliminated, suppressed. The need is still there, buried under layers of coping that look, from the outside, like admirable self-sufficiency. Now widen the frame. Pull back from the laboratory to a kitchen in a small apartment, where a 9-year-old girl stands on a step stool, stirring soup on the stove. Behind her, a parent lies on the couch, empty bottles on the floor. A younger sibling tugs at the girl's sleeve, hungry. This is parentification. Psychology Today reviewed this pattern extensively in 2023. When children are forced into caregiving roles, when they become the parent to their own parent or the protector of younger siblings, they internalize a devastating equation. I am the one who helps. I am never the one who gets helped. That equation follows them into adulthood like a shadow fused to their skeleton. The girl who stirred soup at 9 becomes the woman at 34 who organizes every group project, plans every birthday, manages every crisis at work, and then goes home to an empty apartment where she sits on the kitchen floor and cannot understand why she feels so hollow. If any of this feels familiar, it is worth pausing to acknowledge something. Learning to survive alone was not a failure. It was the smartest thing your nervous system could have done with the options it had. But survival strategies have expiration dates, and the ones that protected you at 5 can imprison you at 30. Let the scene shift to the interior of a brain, reimagined as a vast geometric cavern. Two structures pulse with light. One, the amygdala, glows hot orange, oversized, throbbing with rapid flashes. The other, the prefrontal cortex, flickers dimly, a polygon barely holding its shape, its light stuttering like a bulb about to die. General neuroscience gives us a framework for understanding what happens inside a trauma-adapted brain. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive. It scans constantly for threat. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational evaluation and flexible decision-making, gets suppressed under the weight of chronic fear. Now here is the cruel twist. When someone with this neural configuration is offered help, the amygdala does not register kindness. It registers exposure, vulnerability, a door opening that once led to pain. The offer of help triggers the same cascade as a threat. Heart rate increases, muscles tense. The mind races for an exit strategy. And the mouth says, "I'm fine, I've got it, don't worry about me." This is not a choice. This is a reflex operating below the speed of conscious thought. Zoom into a geometric synapse, electrical impulses leaping across a gap between two crystalline nerve endings. The signal fires in one direction only, away, always away. Now, a critical distinction. Hyperindependence is not a formal diagnosis in the DSM. You will not find it listed alongside depression or PTSD. But clinicians working with trauma survivors encounter it so frequently that it has become a recognized clinical concept, a pattern with consistent features and predictable origins. It is also not the same as healthy independence, and this difference matters enormously. A split scene. On the left, a figure walks along a geometric mountain ridge, choosing their path with calm deliberation. They carry a pack. At the trailhead below, friends wait, and the figure waves, signaling they will call if needed. This is choice. On the right, a different figure climbs a different mountain, steeper, darker. Their pack is overloaded, straps cutting into angular shoulders. Far below, friends call out, offering ropes, water, rest. The figure does not look down, cannot look down. The muscles in their jaw are locked. This is compulsion. Healthy independence means having the flexibility to choose when to rely on yourself and when to lean on others. Hyperindependence strips away that choice entirely. It is not freedom. It is a cage built from the inside, with bars made of old fear. The rigidity is the tell. When someone cannot accept help even when they are drowning, even when the cost of refusal is their health, their relationships, their sanity, that is not strength. That is a wound still running the show. And there is another layer many people do not expect. Newer research points to shame as a central engine driving the pattern. A 2025 correlational study published in the International Journal of Indian Psychology examined 200 university students and found that internalized shame was a stronger predictor of hyperindependence than attachment style alone. This is a single study with a modest sample, so the findings should be held with appropriate caution. But they point towards something clinicians have long suspected. It is not just that hyper-independent people fear being let down. They fear being seen. Specifically, they fear that needing help will expose something defective at their core. The shame whispers. If you ask, they will know you are not enough. A figure stands in a geometric hall of mirrors, each reflective polygon showing a different, distorted version of themselves. One reflection is crumbling. Another is too small. Another has no face at all. The figure stands rigidly at the center, fists clenched, refusing to look at any of them. This is why accepting a casserole from a neighbor after surgery can feel like a catastrophic event. Why letting a partner book a flight can trigger a spiral of anxiety. Why saying the words, "I need help," can feel like stepping off a cliff with no visible ground below. The shame predates the moment. It was installed years ago, in rooms the person may barely remember, by dynamics they may never have had words for. And here is where the long-term cost becomes impossible to ignore. Research published in the Journal of Contextual Behavioral Science in 2020 found that avoidance-based coping strategies are correlated with the maintenance of psychological distress over time, particularly among individuals with a history of trauma. The more a person avoids vulnerability, the more entrenched their suffering becomes. This is correlational data, not a simple cause and effect arrow, but the pattern is consistent and robust. Avoidance works in the short term. It reduces immediate discomfort, but over months and years, it hollows a person out. A time-lapse sequence. A geometric tree stands in an open field. Season by season, its branches extend outward, growing longer, reaching further. But no leaves appear. The branches are rigid, bare, increasingly brittle. One winter, a single branch snaps under the weight of frost it could have survived if it had any flexibility left. Hyper-independent people often arrive at a breaking point that looks, from the outside, like it came from nowhere. A sudden collapse at work. An unexpected breakdown in a grocery store parking lot. A relationship that ends not with a fight, but with a quiet, devastating withdrawal. But it did not come from nowhere. It came from everywhere, accumulated across thousands of moments where the person absorbed what should have been shared, carried what should have been distributed, and smiled through what should have been grieved. If you recognize yourself in any of this, there is something important to understand. The fact that you managed alone for so long is not evidence that you should keep doing it. It is evidence of how much capacity you have. And that capacity does not disappear when you let someone else hold part of the weight. It actually grows. A therapy room, softly lit, geometric furniture in warm tones. Two figures sit across from each other. One speaks, the other listens. Between them, a small polygonal object, like a stone, rests on the table. The speaking figure reaches out and slides the stone across the surface toward the listener. The listener receives it, holds it. The stone glows faintly. Recovery from hyperindependence is not about becoming dependent. It is about restoring the choice that trauma took away. It is about retraining a nervous system that learned one rule and applying it to every situation without exception. This process is slow. It is non-linear. It often begins not with grand gestures, but with micro risks. Letting someone carry a bag. Admitting you do not know something. Texting a friend back honestly instead of performing wellness. Each micro risk is a data point. The nervous system collects these data points like a scientist gathering evidence against its own hypothesis. Every time vulnerability does not result in catastrophe, the old equation weakens by a fraction. A geometric scale hangs in darkness, slowly tipping. On one side, a mountain of old evidence, heavy and compacted. On the other, a small but growing collection of new experiences, each one a tiny, luminous polygon. The scale has not balanced yet, but it is moving. The woman from the opening scene appears again. Same office, same desk. The tower of folders is just as tall. A coworker approaches again, hand extended. This time, the woman pauses. Her fingers tighten on the folders. Her jaw clenches. The old reflex fires, fast and familiar. But between the reflex and the response, there is now a gap. Small, almost imperceptible. A space where she can notice what is happening instead of being carried by it. She looks at the coworker. She exhales. And she slides 3 folders across the desk. Not all of them. 3. A manageable risk. A deliberate experiment. The coworker takes them without commentary, without judgment, without the catastrophe the woman's nervous system has been predicting for 29 years. She stands there for a moment, hands lighter than they have been in a long time, feeling something she cannot yet name. It is not comfort. Not yet. It is closer to the dizzying sensation of a door opening into a room she forgot existed. She will close that door again, probably. Tomorrow, maybe even in an hour. The old wiring does not dissolve in a single moment of courage. But she opened it once, and now she knows it is there. And that changes the architecture of everything that comes after. The camera pulls back slowly, the geometric office dissolving into an aerial view of an entire low-poly city. Thousands of tiny buildings and tinier figures, all carrying their own invisible weight. Some alone, some beginning, just barely, to reach across the angular distances between them. No one was meant to carry everything alone. The fact that you did is remarkable, and the fact that you might not have to anymore is not a loss. It is the thing you were owed all along, finally, cautiously, within